Hey there, everybody. I'm Lucas Martell. I'm the creator of Walkabout Mini Golf, and here we are in our new Meow Wolf course. Let me take you on a little tour. For folks who don't know, Meow Wolf is a interactive location-based arts collective. There's a lot of adjectives, but essentially they build in real life these absolutely amazing exhibits. It started in Santa Fe. They essentially got a bowling alley and just filled it up with the most crazy sort of installation art. And then they expanded to Las Vegas and to Denver and now Grapevine, Texas, and I believe they have one more coming as well. This that we're inside here is based off of the Numina exhibit, which is one of the Denver ones. The whole collaboration came about because we were talking about potential people that we might like to work with, and it was right about that time that Vince Cadlebeck, one of the co-founders of Meow Wolf, actually tweeted at us or about us just because he had actually been playing Walkabout. We just sent a tweet back to him and got the conversation going, and it was so cool that they were so interested to collaborate, and we went back and forth a good bit on different things we could do. We thought about creating something entirely new. Ultimately, though, we decided to base it on a virtual version of this Numina exhibit. It just made a lot more sense to base it off of something that existed because that kind of gave us a way to absorb all of it's a collective. There's hundreds and hundreds of people that are working on these real life installations. And by doing something that existed, it wasn't just us making stuff up, because even the Meow Wolf folks have a conversation about what is Meow Wolf. It's not that there's a specific thing that defines it. This area is called the Swamp, but it's like the heart of Numina. And it is the most difficult thing that we have done, just in terms of the amount of stuff that we're showing, how many animated characters are in here. This is actually also one of the smaller levels that we've done, which sounds like that might actually be easier, but the challenge is that you could see just about everything from every single point. So we've been working a lot on optimization and just basically getting this thing to run on Quest 2 and 3. So that central object that you see right there is called the Cosmohedron. That is also one of the big things from the Numina exhibit. One of the central pieces that you always pay attention to. So we'll come up here around hole 3, walking on the lily pads. Not going to give away the gameplay, but suffice to say that we went a little nuts with the mechanics in this course, and many of the holes feature a different mechanic or some kind of unexpected thing. So this is definitely going to be a very different course from some of the more traditional ones. And it's also something that you're just going to have to play through once or twice to really get what all is going on. That was something that we talked about with the folks at Meow Wolf, and they were really into this idea of sort of subverting expectations. So I might show one or two little things off, but I'm not going to give too much away. Here we have Fig. There's a lot of different animated characters. The big guy standing right up here is Barrett. Most of the characters, over here we've got Saudade. Most of the characters are also from the Numina exhibit. One of the big challenges that we had, oh, and by the way, we're going underwater now. Most of the characters are from Numina. There's one or two that we invented. The challenge was, though, is that in Numina they don't actually move. They weren't able to do full animatronics, so they're just static. So we had to invent a motion language, and the Meow Wolf folks had a lot of fun figuring out what these should actually move, or what is the sort of the motion language of Meow Wolf. We went and met with the Meow Wolf folks in Santa Fe, had some discussions, and then because we had already decided on the Numina and Denver exhibit. We met up there and spent a few days going through everything with Katie Kennedy. She is, I believe, the chief creative director there at Meow Wolf, and she had actually designed all the Numina exhibit. And one of the things that she pointed out was that they had kind of custom designed this very specific poured concrete floor that was somewhat reflective to give the illusion that Numina basically continued underwater. And one of the very first ideas that we had when we were chatting about that was that it's VR, we could just go underwater. So you notice that everything under here is actually, it's like you're actually playing through a reflection of basically the top side of Numina. There's also, you'll notice that a lot of things, it might be difficult to see on video, but a lot of the elements are actually swimming slightly, almost as if they're underwater. We used a lot of tricks to basically create the idea of water through fog and a couple of other different things without actually being in here. There's a lot going on in this course. Just on the rendering side of things, definitely, in addition to all of the gameplay mechanics and everything. But yeah, this is actually, the trick that we found is actually using some of our height fog that we've used at other levels like Shangri-La. It's actually in most of our levels now, even if it's really subtle. When you go underwater, you do get this sort of hazy, glossy filter over everything that helps really feel like there's medium between you and whatever you're looking at. Each of the levels like a different installation in it in the actual Numina. So we did a lot of great stuff with the audio and pulling some different images that when you step inside, you feel like you're going into another world. I should also talk a little bit more about Katie Kennedy. So this was a really unique experience for us because normally when we do licensed stuff, we have a couple of check-ins and we keep tabs and we update them on our progress. However, for this one, because Katie Kennedy is an artist and she's also very proficient with Gravity Sketch, which is what we use to do a lot of our level design in the early on stages. We actually got into a collab room and built most of this with her. So she was very hands-on, even going in and helping with a lot of the set deck in terms of how we were putting plants. One of the other big elements, and this is maybe not even a bad place to show it off, is what she refers to as cat skin. So all of these vines and branches and everything that you see all over the place, when you see it in the actual Numina, there's a textural quality to it that the closest thing that she can describe is like it's like the skin of like a hairless cat in the way that it folds and creates all of these very interesting sort of shapes and perturbations and stuff. So this was a pretty big challenge to make all of this work because pretty much everything you see in here is organic, and all of those sort of twisty vines, like it'll form the base over here, it'll actually be part of this hole right here, and then it'll lead up and actually maybe even be part of another hole higher up. It's a very complicated piece of modeling. I should also call out Emma Mercado, who is one of our 3D artists here. She really took the lead on doing a lot of the cat skin work. We're up on the green of hole 6, moving on to 7. The portal, a pretty good bit of work that went into all of that. On the visual side of things, Jeff Bull, one of our senior tech artists, actually kind of came up with this whole look of the swirling and being able to use some, basically you get a sort of an image of where you're going. And then Brian Muller, one of our engineers, spent a good bit of time getting it so that you can smooth locomotion, you can teleport, and you can fly through the portal. And essentially it's just moving you into a new place. But to get that to feel good and not weird, there's a lot of polish that goes into that. Now that we have that, it definitely opens up a lot more things that we can do and adds one more way of sort of like being able to move people around. So here we come up to hole 7. This also has a variation of those portals I mentioned, except this one, your ball actually falls through. All of the characters This is Twig. And this with the four heads is Numenita, which is sort of like, I'm not going to go too deep into the lore behind everything because it's really, really complex and I'll probably just butcher it. But there are a couple of characters from the actual Numina exhibits. Emma Mercado built all of those. Again, Emma really did a lot of heavy hitting work on this one. And now we come up to hole 8. We've affectionately termed this guy No Butt because he's got 2 heads. So it seemed like an appropriate title for him. So this is going to introduce, and this is a big spoiler, so if you haven't played it yet and you're thinking about it, yeah, look away. But so on a typical mini golf hole, you would go into the mouth and come out. And we wanted to introduce the idea of something that they do in Meow Wolf, so let's just walk through another one of these portals here. So, this is one of the first what they call in Meow Wolf flex rooms. So in the main exhibit, or all of the exhibits, they have sort of like big central areas, but then they have all these little breakout rooms that are something that other individual, usually local artists actually come in and sort of take over a space. And so we thought, well, if this is Meow Wolf, a normal mini golf hole would just spit you out. And so we came up with the idea of like, well, what if you actually go into this like intergalactic being's stomach, and then you actually have to play your second shot from inside his stomach. So it makes it a much longer hole, but it also introducing this concept of flex rooms was something that we wanted to do very, very early on. And I think this was one of those ideas that we pitched in the very first day of like, oh, you come in here, and of course, there's some dudes playing cards with leaves. So, because why wouldn't there be? It's all about sort of subverting expectations, and once you feel like you're getting a handle on it, we take you somewhere that you don't expect to be going. Once you eventually hit your ball back out, now you will finally be on the green that you saw earlier. So just a little detour. That's new. You haven't done that yet, probably. I should call out that all the design in there, Zach Alexander, one of our concept artists and illustrators, he kind of came up with this whole, we had done something that was very, very simple, kind of like just a stomach. And then he kind of went further with all of that ribs and all of the space around you just being sort of like really, really ethereal. So super cool. And so now we're coming up, we were in the bottom of the Cosmohedron earlier. Now we come up to the very top level. We kind of wanted to use the Cosmohedron as a bit of an anchor point, so that basically you would be kind of passing through each of the levels at different times, but again, because we're teleporting people around, it really gives us the opportunity to sort of like show it in different ways from different angles. Hole 10 here, I also want to show off one of the other big mechanics that we use a good bit. We'll see if I can actually hit the putt. You might see these glowing yellow things in a few places. So this is our multi-ball mechanic. We knew it would be fun, but we wanted to come up with a way that it actually worked for gameplay. So the idea is that once you hit one of those multi-ball triggers, it splits apart, and then whatever ball is closest to the hole it'll basically resolve to the best ball. And the thing that was nice about that is that it gave us a mechanic that was super fun to play with, but also there's a skill shot involved. And it's still, it doesn't really break golf, the idea of golf. But if you do that, then you get to, you can have 10 balls all come down, and there's a good chance that one of them is going to end up in a hole. So some really, really fun stuff that we started playing around with that is sort of like a skill shot that you can unlock and roll the dice with. There we go. But yeah, so every place we did the multi-ball, We really aimed for, creating a way of like a lot of randomness, and the multi-ball became a way of kind of getting around all that randomness to give you a better spot. So yeah, we do use that mechanic at several spots throughout the level. That was hole 10. We just passed under Gangly Arms, by the way. Numenita, she changes shape. She appears in multiple iterations through. This is a more classic hole, but yeah, we really wanted to do a lot more with the animation on this one in terms of making the characters more of a part of it. You might also see Maria flying around behind us here, and if not, I think here she comes around the corner. This giant sort of flying, swimming sea slug. Her name is Maria. Just fun fact. So this is hole 11, and we're going to go through this portal. By the way, the arrows was something that we realized that we kind of needed to give people a little bit more of a tip-off to. We also realized that because we kind of introduced the idea of having some of these arrows and bits of our UI in the actual space, that just became part of the language we were able to use. So here we go into another one of our flex rooms. This was one that Henikachi, our lead level designer, came up with. He kind of wanted the idea of this sort of 3D object kind of passing through a plane, and where it intersects, that becomes the actual play surface. But if you notice that it's actually, all the walls actually move, and once my ball activates here, you'll also notice that because this is sort of a flat, two-dimensional world, you also notice that, of course, the ball is flat as well. So, kind of feels a little bit more like playing air hockey a little bit. So, here we are at hole 13. Let me show you, spoiler alert, the mechanic on this one. So we had some fun changing the size of the ball. I don't know how well that'll translate over to the video, but yeah, now this thing's about the size of a beach ball. So this whole system for basically being able to change our ball, to turn it flat, to do the multi-ball, to do these different sized balls, there's just an absolutely massive number of mechanics in this. Colby Morgan is our tech director, and he spent a lot of work doing, hands-on as well as leading the team for just like kind of coming up with all these things. The nice thing is now that this system is in place, it is much easier for us to do more. And I've kind of alluded to that on a couple of other conversations, that we've kind of abstracted things out to the point that now we're able to make things a little bit, I never even noticed that one. We're able to sort of like, because of course the ball would be larger next to the big hole, so I hadn't even found that one. That was something that that Edward McAndrew did. He always does all the lost balls, and I actually haven't even gotten a chance to go through here and find them all. All of the tech team put in a lot of hours just getting all these different things to work together, and this very sort of intense ball modifier system. So yeah, Colby Morgan, tech director, JP, John Pastella, did a ton of engineering work, Scott Meyer. So here we've got another one of our multi-ball things. This also gives a good example of that. Like, sure, there's a way that you could likely try to putt around. I think we even made one so that there is sort of like a high-risk shot there, but also it's very likely that if you just, I got a bad bounce on that one. That's also what happens when you roll the dice with the multi-ball, though. So yeah. Oh yeah, we kind of threw everything in the kitchen sink into this one. So here we are going into hole 16 through this portal here. This was a callback to Coyote Valley. Oh, you're not in here yet. I'll save it. So yeah, so this was a callback to Coyote Valley. So one of the things that Katie had said was that she was really involved with all of the Numina stuff, but for the Flex Room, she's like, you guys should sort of, normally those are done by local artists, and she's like, well, the Walkabout team is sort of the local artists, so the conversation was, what is a mechanic that you guys want to do? And so in this case, we came up with a whole new one that I just realized won't, because we're playing in practice mode, you actually won't be able to see exactly how that works. So that'll have to be something you guys encounter. A lot of callbacks to Spuds or Turnip. We had a couple of named sheep that in Coyote Valley that kind of became favorites of the team. So we just said, like, well, if we're going to do Coyote Valley, then we really need to just lean into the sheep aspect of it. And that's a big part of the how the hole plays as well once you get a chance to try this out. Through the portal, down to hole 17. And yeah, just really want to call out all of the work that everyone did on this course. We kind of joke that this course is almost like 3 or 4 courses in one. That's almost not even a joke, though, just because of the number of mechanics, how complex it was to build. And I think that the amount of time that we spent on this course was easily 3 times the amount of just man hours that normally go into any of our other courses. So this definitely takes the cake for being by far the most complex, the most, yeah, most obsessed over. By the way, Maria is also rideable if you choose to fly around and get up there. She'll give you a nice little tour of the space. So, just to kind of get your bearings a little bit, I mentioned how disorienting by design this whole thing is. So that's actually hole 3. A lot of times the characters kind of become the best way of being able to remember sort of where you're at, but even the team who's been working on this for over a year now, a lot of times we'll fly around and we've kind of got to hunt around a little bit to find a certain thing just because it is so intentionally disorienting within here. So that was hole 17. We are coming down to hole 18. And I'm definitely going to save the finale and not spoil that for anyone who's spent some time in here. But yes, we knew from the very beginning that if the Cosmo was what we came back to, that we really needed to, you know, classic game design. If you've got multi-ball, what happens when the multi-balls make multi-balls? So I won't spoil it for you.